Do it.
This is your review of the new Shudder release, The Queen of Black Magic. I'm really afraid to mess up the synopsis and spoil something, so I'm just going to read the IMDb synopsis for you guys. Families were terrorized at the orphanage. Someone wants them dead, apparently with black magic that is very deadly. She is a grudge, and she was also born because of the sins of the orphans who formed her into the Queen of Black Magic. That's an interesting way to format a synopsis, but it's accurate. It's all accurate.
It's accurate. And they give you what you need to know. I mean, again, like, Shudder is doing very well with acquiring Indonesian horror, and it's hilarious that I saw this at Night Stream Festival when it came out, and it played like right after May the Devil Take You 2. And they were like, I didn't know if this was an Indonesian thing, and apparently both films, completely made separate by different directors and parties, are about orphanages and adults going back to the orphanage and having to relive their trauma. So like I looked into it, and like apparently it is like it's a bigger theme in Indonesian horror. But you know, it's funny to see something become a trope in a different country's horror film because it's actually getting represented now and actually getting like distribution, and Shudder's been doing great with that. So like this is a part 2 for me of after seeing May the Devil Take You 2, but I like Queen of Black Magic a lot more. I think Queen of Black Magic, yeah.
This is a very good movie.
Yeah, right? It's fun. It's so much fun.
I'll tell you right at the beginning, something that really struck me was how quickly I felt like I was brought into this group of people. Because there's a lot of main players here and a lot of individuals to keep track of, beginning with one of the main characters, Hanif, Neef. They call him Neef in the movie, and his wife and his 3 kids. And then on top of that, he's also going back to the orphanage with 2 of his brothers, essentially, and their wives. And then there's also people that are at the orphanage. And I couldn't believe how quickly I knew who everyone was, where they fit into the group, what they were about. I got a sense of their past. It was a very impressive setup to me, and I think that's a big reason why so many of the scares here work well. And when I tell you, those scares are over the top, brutal.
Nuts. They're nuts.
Really like nutso visuals that I mean, they creeped me out, and they made it a little difficult to sleep last night. And I don't usually have that.
Yeah, and for me, it's, you know, I'll talk about practical effects all day, every day, and that's the big thing for me. And what is interesting about Queen of Black Magic is it's a lot of CGI, and it's a lot of added, you know, animated effects on top of a few practical things. Don't get me wrong, it's there. But, you know, horror in Indonesia doesn't have the same budgets we do, no matter what, so you got to do what you got to do. And it was never a hindrance for me. There were so many sequences with creepy crawlies and definite things that had to be animated, but the way that it works in the magic of the story and the way that it works in those scenes, it's never a negative. Like I still felt the horror of those scenarios, and especially again with the creepy crawly scares, because there's some great insect work in this movie.
Yes, there is.
It is totally CGI, and it still creeps you the hell out.
Yeah, I was surprised how well that worked for me, because I remember that being a concern after I watched the trailer, thinking that, oh, you know, maybe it's going to look too fake. That's definitely not the case here. And, you know, I brought up the history of the characters earlier too, because so many of the scares tie directly into some of that. So I feel like when the scares are believable in the way that they're tied to the characters and what they're all about, that makes those visual creepy crawlies and the other things that we see even more believable, and it makes them hit even harder too.
And like, you know, the history here too behind the film, if you need any more selling points and you know Indonesian horror, is number one, it was written by Joko Anwar, who is responsible for Satan's Slaves and also is responsible for Impedagore. So again, like, you know, Shudder knows what they're doing here. They know quality, and it's his script. Kimo Stambiol is the director, who is part of the Mo Brothers with Timo Tjahjanto. So he goes all the way back with and is responsible for these tremendous Indonesian horror films before it was getting the notice it's getting now. So you get them teaming up and creating this. You walk into an orphanage with characters who are going to reunite and kind of help out because the caretaker is sick. And all of a sudden things that they remember from their childhood are not what they were. And the caretaker is revealed to be something. And it's like, you forget sometimes that a person may not be as good or bad as they were. So it's this thing of like reconnecting with your childhood, also reconnecting with trauma from your childhood. Also, maybe there's a magic witch. So it's like, it's all those things wrapped into one. You still get the creepy callies. Kids are endangered, and I love a movie that actually puts kids in danger. It's got it. It's all there.
It's like, it's a multi-generation story here, and about how all of that trauma and how the repercussions of your actions can affect your children. And I think they explored that pretty well. I'm trying to think of other things I wanted to point out here. That location is incredible, and the way they move around it was just something else.
Yeah, it's a large facility, but if you feel very intimate and confined in it.
Yeah. And they use all the space so well. I was very excited by that. I love sky high production value like this. And I wish I could sit here and literally name drop every single person in this ensemble. But one, you guys know me, I'll pronounce names wrong and then I'll feel terrible and lose sleep over that. But also, this is an enormous ensemble, and literally all of them stand out. Without going into spoilers here, I will say, because you guys also know this about me, I like my lore, neat and clean. Like, I like everything to be able to align, and I like all the rules to make sense. And they don't here, but I think they don't for the better. Again, I'm not tapping into what the ending material is right now, but I was very worried. I usually get a little worried when you're dealing with something supernatural, like black magic or witchcraft or paranormal activity type stuff. I like it to be set out and to be believable through and through. But I think the way they show what the Queen of Black Magic is capable of without boxing the character into any specific rules left me in a place where I wasn't questioning anything and felt completely satisfied with what that individual is capable of doing.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think there were some issues. It's not a perfect film. For me, it's not a perfect movie by any means. But it's a little slower start that really takes a little bit to kind of ease into. But then when you get there, like you said, the Queen of Black Magic is in full force. Guns are being pointed at kids. Bugs are crawling out of places. Like models are cutting their fat because they are so obsessed with their self-image. Everything gets very introspective, and it gets very heavy in the sense that a horror movie should, and it just brings the haunted house chills. Also, Shudder is releasing the real Queen of Black Magic, which this is actually based on. Or sorry, it's pretty much a remake. So if you like this, you can then go on Shudder and check out the original Queen of Black Magic from the 80s.
Man, isn't Shudder the best? This is not an advertisement. I
was going to say, this review provided by Shudder.
All right, Matt, it's time. How many Deweys would you give the Queen of Black Magic?
I easily will give the Queen of Black Magic 3.5 Deweys out of 5.
Okay. I'm actually a little torn between a 3.5 and a 4. And I think I'm going to lean towards a 4. I mean, I understand why one might think there were pacing issues at the beginning, but that's actually what got it going very quickly for me. Is I find it's of the utmost importance to develop your characters before you put them in these heightened scenarios. And I really fell for these characters very, very quickly and fell in step with them. And once that happens, then the blood and the bugs kick in, and it's really it's flying from there. And yeah. I love the way that the movie kept me on my toes. Even though I had a good sense of the evil at play in that building, I never knew what was going to happen next. And then what would happen next would just wow me over and over again. So I was just very impressed by every element of this one. I dug the story and the lore. I really clearly liked the ensemble. And again, production value, I think, on this one is pretty high. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Queen of Black Magic, check it out on Shudder.